All right, thank you for tuning in. 25 minutes before 11 o'clock, and that cloud cover you see overhead is actually part of Hurricane Michael, but if you could have the best part of a hurricane, I think we're in it right now. Now that I'm speaking for us here at the studios. The truth is, the broadcast goes far enough west that there are some of you out there that are probably getting worse weather right now. And if you happen to be northwest of where we are, you're even worse. However, we don't reach up to the panhandle, and those folks are really getting the brunt of this thing. So do whatever you can. Let us know if we can help you. If you are putting together like a caravan of supplies for those people after the storm, they're going to need things, and if you need us to help you get the word out about a drive that you're conducting, we would be glad to help you out with that. One of the things that has happened in our world is that a lot of folks who have been caught up in the marijuana laws are starting to be what's the word, Robin? Clemency? They're let out of prison, whatever it's called. Up in New York, they're doing this, right? And some other places in the country, which it always seemed to me to be an unusual sentence for somebody for having a little thing that's rolled up in paper that they were smoking. Not that I was a smoker of it myself. I was a cigar man, Robin.
So you had leaves rolled up.
Mine was legal leaf. Yeah, those were illegal leaves. Anyway, on the phone, Sarah Lee Gossett Parrish. She's an attorney, and she specializes in marijuana cases. So I'm looking forward to hearing what she has to say about that. She served as chairwoman of the Governor's Commission on the Status of Women for the state of Oklahoma. She was instrumental in starting the Oklahoma Women's Hall of Fame, and she's written at least one book, right? The Guilt of Innocence. Mm-hmm. And you told me she's an accomplished photographer as well.
Yes.
So, or artist or photographer, or both?
Both.
Both, okay. Sarah Lee Gossett Parrish, you're a busy lady. Thank you for coming on the air with us today.
Oh, thank you for having me. I appreciate you all having me very much.
And where are you right now?
I am at my law office here in Oklahoma City.
And now, how did it come to be that you specialize in marijuana cases?
Well, Oklahoma has just legalized marijuana for medicinal purposes, and it's something, frankly, that I've always been passionate about as far as the medicinal value of the cannabis plant. I've had many friends who could have, and some who did benefit from the medicinal value because of chemotherapy, girlfriends with breast cancer, those kinds of things.
Oh,
and then,
wow.
And I've found with my clients that many of them have personal stories as well. And I think across the country, but especially in Oklahoma too, we have a real opioid addiction epidemic. And if you look at the statistics for the states that have legalized marijuana, even just for medicinal purposes, as we have done here in Oklahoma, the opioid addictive rate has gone down. And to me, that's just a magnificent statistic.
Wow.
And
what is the reason?
So much healthier. I think that marijuana can address a lot of the same issues that doctors use for opioid prescriptions.
Really?
Yes.
Is medicinal marijuana administered as smoke or as some kind of an ingestible or an injectable? How is it administered?
Well, that's really up to the patient. It can be through edibles. It can be through smoking it. There are many different ways that it can also be distilled down into a concentrate. And then the other thing not to count out is the value of CBD
what is that?
As well.
What is that?
And that is derived from the hemp plant. And unlike THC, which is the portion of the marijuana plant that gets you high, CBD, the cannabinoids, are the portions of the hemp plant, which is a cousin to the marijuana plant. They're both under the rubric of cannabis. But in any event, CBD oils have been proven to help with chronic pain, joint pain, anxiety, all things of that nature. And if Congress passes the Farm Bill, which is languishing right now, it'll legalize hemp nationally and take any issues as far as legality of CBD off the table across the country.
Talk about that issue that you just kind of mentioned, the fact that some states have legalized marijuana, but yet the country hasn't. So there's a little bit of a discourse between the states and the federal government. What is the circumstance there? Are they going to align with one another eventually?
You know, I certainly think so. I hope so. I was in Washington, D.C. in August and met with some members of the Congressional Cannabis Caucus. I was up there for the National Cannabis Bar Association meeting, and they assured us, and it was very encouraging, frankly, there were members from both sides of the aisle working together to achieve a common goal, which is, you know, exactly what we would hope in any issue. But they assured me that this 106th Congress that is coming in will likely enact some kind of legislation that either perhaps the States Act that provides a safe harbor for businesses, banks, and individuals in states to the extent the state has legalized marijuana, or something of that nature. I think, you know, we're still a ways out from Congress removing it from the Schedule I designation, sadly, because that's what needs to happen to open many of the doors as far as banking and other issues are concerned. But at least this would certainly be a stopgap measure to help people in these states.
So when you talk about banking, that means that the businesses that are able to provide the marijuana in its different specifications to the consumer, they can't get a bank account or file taxes then.
Oh, wow.
Because it's deemed illegal by the federal government, but not by the state?
Well, you know, in principle, that's true, but in practice, not necessarily. There are some banks, particularly regional banks, that are providing some services to marijuana entrepreneurs and businesses, and they pay taxes. They pay them. It's sort of, in my opinion, a great hypocrisy, because the federal government continues to state that it's a Schedule I drug and it's illegal federally, but then if you're an entrepreneur in the marijuana industry, you got to pay your federal taxes, and they accept those in cash. So anyway, that's kind of, they pay their taxes. Now, you know, that brings up another issue with all the cash floating around. It's difficult to document exactly how much has been sold and how many how much taxes you're going to owe. So in that regard, there's room for, you know, if somebody wanted to take that in a gray area, they certainly could. And to me, that's a great argument for the Fed stepping in and taking it out of that Schedule I designation so we can have banking.
We had a situation here in Florida. I wanted to tell you this. It was a lady running for the position of Agriculture Commissioner. Her name is Nikki Fried, F-R-I-E-D. And she supported medical marijuana. And I think it was Wells Fargo that canceled her account. Let me just read the headline here. Candidate backed medical marijuana. Wells Fargo closed her bank account. And I think that's kind of playing to what Robin is saying, is that just saying that she wants to change the laws had a banking institution, in this case Wells Fargo, decide, well, we don't want your money anymore, so that's good luck. Is that legal? I mean, can they do that?
Well, they can. And, you know, a lot of the larger banks don't want any part of banking someone involved in the industry or who is perceived as a proponent of it. They're FDIC insured, and their concern really stems from money laundering charges that could be brought.
Oh, okay.
Now, it's important to point out that you all probably recall under President Obama, the Justice Department issued a memo, the Cole memo, that basically said marijuana is still a Schedule I drug, but we're not going to devote a lot of federal resources from the Justice Department to prosecuting people in states who are complying with state law where it's legal. And at the same time, the Department of the Treasury issued what is called the FinCEN memo, and we don't hear quite so much about that as we do the Cole memo, but it's equally important. And notably, Attorney General Sessions, when he kind of attempted to undo the Cole memo, didn't reference the FinCEN memo. And that FinCEN memo is still out there, and the credit unions and the banks who are accepting cannabis customers, I think, are doing so under the guidelines of that FinCEN memo. And but anyway, it also states that the decision on whether or not to conduct banking business with cannabis customers is up to each individual bank.
Right.
So it just kind of depends.
You're an impressive lady. I usually, when we speak to people who are talking about the law, they don't really have a creative side of the brain that's kicked in gear, but you do. I mean, you've got both sides going, it sounds like, from my notes.
You're very kind.
Well, I'm just telling you what I'm observing here. So tell me about yourself. Are you, like when you were a child, were you interested in academic stuff as well as artistic stuff?
I was. I always studied hard, but I really enjoyed. I was a pianist. I played piano for many, many years, and almost was a piano major in college. And instead of a letters major, I'm sure that would have probably changed the course of my life.
Wow.
But I've always loved that creative side too, and I think it keeps a person balanced. You don't want to be too far in either direction.
Yeah, although you're a rare breed for the left and right brain to both be working pretty strong. And Robin said is it a photographer or artist or both? I'm confused here.
Oh, no. It's a photographer. I do fine art photography and really enjoy it. It's a great hobby. I've shown at Art San Diego and Art Basel Miami, and am represented by a few galleries, and it's fun. It's really fun.
What is your subject matter, or does that also, is it very eclectic?
Well, I'm in the middle of a floral series right now, but most of them are not flowers the way that you would see them photographed, the way I cropped them. At least some of them are, they are pretty artsy, I guess you could say. And I've got I've got a photography website. It's slgparrish.com. So it's fun.
Oh, that's wonderful. SLGParish.com.
I'm going to look. I was looking at your other website just now. I was looking for them. Okay, FLG.
S.
Oh, S.
S as in Sarah.
Okay.
S as in, Sarah Lee Gossett Parrish. SLGParish.com. And then I have a bunch of my photos on Instagram, which is at SLGParish too.
Oh my gosh, that's a photograph? That looks like a painting. That is really
Outstanding.
Nice. Yeah.
Outstanding.
Oh, thank you.
Absolutely.
I love to photograph water too. I enjoy the beach and the lakes and sunsets.
What is it about water?
But
I think humans just love water. They're looking at it, drinking it, submerging in it. We just love water. I think we're fish.
Oh, too good.
Oh, these are pretty pictures. Oh, I like this one with the water drops on it. You got one. It looks like a white rose with water droplets all over it. Oh, that's pretty. Look at that, Robin.
That's gorgeous. Look at that.
Look at that.
That is absolutely outstanding.
Thank you. I'm glad you guys like my work.
When Oklahoma finally passed this law for the state, what kind of hurdles did they have to overcome?
Well, that's a really great question. I think that people here had traditional conservative ideas about marijuana, and it has come from decades of information and some misinformation. But then I think that the proponents of medical marijuana in our state question 788, which passed, by a clear majority, were able to get the word out. And as I mentioned, several of my clients have personal experiences with the medicinal value of this plant. They've had parents or grandparents with Parkinson's or with cancer and other issues like that. And I think that there were hurdles to overcome as far as educating the public, but I also think that given the medicinal value, people begin to figure out this is a good thing. This could really be a positive thing for our state and for the patients here. So,
can this be put up to a vote? Like, can the people in Florida on the next ballot want to have medical marijuana, and then they can vote on it, and if it passes, then it will be legal here also? Or is there something else that needs to happen?
No, it can be put to a vote. Now, I'm not sure the initiative petition procedure for the state of Florida, but here in Oklahoma, you'll see those people with a clipboard outside your grocery store, and they want you to sign a petition to put something on the ballot. And that's what we did here, and I would assume it would be the same in Florida. If you get enough signatures and the language of the state question passes constitutional muster and it gets on the ballot, then that would be how that would come about.
And can the president override everybody by making an executive order to get rid of that Schedule 1?
No, that has to be an act of Congress. Literally, that sounds an act of Congress. Yeah. Congress would have to pass a law in that regard. Now, what the president can do is what President Obama did, as far as instructing the Department of Justice to issue that Cole memo stating that they were not going to direct a lot of resources to the prosecution of people who are complying with state law. But it has to be Congress who acts to take it out of the Schedule 1 classification.
Robert, who's the attorney here in Florida that's a big advocate for legalizing marijuana? What's his name? Down in Orlando.
Oh, my gosh, yes. My mind's a blank now.
You don't happen to know, Sarah, do you? Know who we're talking about?
No, I don't.
Oh, my gosh.
Is it Bogan Munns and Munns? Or, let's see.
That's what I was thinking, too, but I don't think it was them. But I think we have the same. It seems like we have a similar situation in Florida as you do in Oklahoma. So the question I have is, are we as a country, are all the states going through this same thing? With the exception of maybe Colorado, which kind of already made a decision.
I think there are a lot of states going through the same thing and going through this process. And, we have a clear majority of states now that have legalized it, at least medicinally, and several where responsible adult usage is legal as well.
Yeah. The gentleman, I'm trying to think of his name. I think he has a brother or brother-in-law or something that was really sick, and marijuana was helping him really great, which is why he is such an advocate for at least the medicinal part of it. And I'm not even sure if Florida passed a law. I think we did. I think we allow it now. Was it
Morgan? John Morgan?
Yeah,
John Morgan. Yeah, that's it. John Morgan.
That does sound right, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but I guess it just seems like, do you know what it seems like to me? It seems weird that we're so against something that seems to be showing promise for people who are sick. And meanwhile, we have all kinds of drugs out there that are legal.
I could not agree more. I think you have just framed the issue beautifully. I agree.
So why? What's the holdup? Is there money? I mean, are there like lobbyists or something that fight against this because somebody else makes money by keeping it illegal?
Well, I do think that Big Pharma may be to blame for some of this. Certainly those who are manufacturing opiates are going to have an issue if doctors start prescribing medical marijuana instead of their opiate drugs, Oh,
my God.
They're going to lose money. And I think Big Pharma could be certainly a part of it. I think it's also interesting that, from about the 1840s to the 1940s, doctors in our country prescribed marijuana for its medicinal value. And it wasn't until, I think it was 41 maybe, that it started becoming vilified. And so anyway, I think it's great that the tide has turned and people are recognizing it has real value.
Yeah, I just figured out why you have such a long name. You are really two people.
Oh my!
We're talking about the law, and we're talking some really deep stuff. And while you're talking, I'm looking at these beautiful photographs that you've taken, and it seems like it's two different people. So so Sarah Lee is the artist photographer, and I guess Sarah Gossett Parrish is the attorney. Yeah, that sounds like an attorney name, Sarah Gossett Parrish. Yeah.
Oh, too good. Yeah, it does. That does sound more like an attorney than
all right. So we have maybe piqued the attention of two people. Or I don't mean two people. Two types of people. Only two people out there listening right now. No, I mean two people. We have the people who are interested in your work with the marijuana laws, and those people who would love to see this beautiful photography you've got. And you've got two different websites, so you're two people, I think. All right, so for the photography, that one was easy. That one was S as in Sarah, L as in Lee, G as in Gossett, Parrish with two R's, slgparrish.com. And the other one with all of your other information was, what was it again?
It is Sarah Lee Gossett Parrish.com. My whole name.com.
Oh, and Robin mentioned also you have a book, Guilt of Innocence. Tell me about that. So you're an author as well.
Well, I had a lot of fun writing that, and it's a legal thriller. Imagine that. I was blessed to take second place in the New York Law Journal's fiction writing conference contest back in, it's been a while ago, 2006. But it was a lot of fun. I'd always wanted to write a book, and I think everyone has at least one book in them. And if I ever retire, I may write another one. But it was a lot of fun to do. And it's a legal thriller, a whodunit. So.
Well, you truly are amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Oh, you're too kind.
All right. So I want to make sure we leave the listeners with information. I guess those websites are the best information. Is the book on Amazon? Can we buy the book there?
No, I wish you could. I should do that. I have not done that, and I need to do that. I'll have to. That may be a project over the winter months to get it on Amazon.
So, as an attorney, do you take care of your own intellectual property rights, or like copyrights, etc., for the book?
I do.
Well, that's good. Yes. That comes in handy.
It seems that from an artistic perspective and also from a legal perspective, especially on the marijuana laws, you would be a good mentor to any community or state that is looking to enact this law within their state.
Oh, I appreciate that. Well, I'd be happy to help anybody at any time. It's something that I feel strongly about, that I think is good for patients and it's good for the country, frankly. So.
Well, thank you, Sarah, for what you're doing. I think you make so much sense regarding the marijuana laws. I just don't get them at all. And smoking is not good for you either way, whether it's tobacco or marijuana. But if it's helping you with an illness, my gosh, why would we deny people that? And then the art, the photography is beautiful. I say art because it looks like art, but
it's outstanding.
Oh, thank you,
Sarah. Thank you again for being on the air with us today. That was fun.
Well, thank you for having me. I enjoyed it very much.
You're welcome. We'll be right back.
Are your investments ready for rocky markets? Brandon White with Our Family Financial can review your situation and help you answer that question. Call Our Family Financial today at 352-4